Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Metter. We're going to be finishing up Unit 1 with our notes on economics and equity. So before you guys get all anxious about talking about economics and environmental science, it's important that we understand that as consumers, the decisions we make to purchase certain goods and services do impact the environment. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, this section of notes, it may take me 2 recording sessions to get through because I want to make sure I'm explaining everything as well as I can and not rushing through it. So we'll just see how long I talk, because I do like to talk a lot. All right, so when we look at economics and equity, it basically falls into supply and demand. Now, I know some of you are taking economics this semester, or you took it in the summer, or you're taking it next semester, or you're a junior and you're going to take it next year. This is the basic tenets of our economy, is supply and demand. So we have buyers and we have sellers. We are all buyers. I personally don't make any products to sell, so I'm not a seller, but we all buy things from sellers. So I'm going to start up here. So we can say that, why is this not working? There we go. Okay. There we go. So we say that buyers and sellers make economic decisions, right? Because we spend our money. So we make economic decisions. And we're making those decisions about which goods and services are produced. Okay, well, y'all see, that's a D there. Okay. About which goods and services are produced. So, why are cell phones produced in mass quantity? Because obviously we want to buy them. It's the same way with any other good that can be purchased. Okay. So, this creates what I've been referring to as supply and demand. Okay, so this creates supply and demand. All right, now I want to show you guys these 2 graphs, and it shows us where supply and demand interact. Okay, so this is where supply and demand interact. And so here's a question I want you to think about. Why can Apple market their cell phones for $1,200? What do you think? Well, it's because people are willing to pay that much for them. So suppliers have to be willing to compromise their prices based on what consumers are willing to pay for them. Okay, so let's look at this first graph right here. So at this point right here, I'm going to circle it. This is the equilibrium point. Okay, so this right here, the equilibrium point, is exactly where supply and demand interact. Okay, and this refers to the price at which buyers are comfortable spending. Okay, so at this point right here, we say where the supplier's price matches what we are willing to pay. So it matches what consumers are willing to pay. So we have no problem paying for that $1,200 iPhone. Okay, now here's the question. When your supply shifts or your demand shifts, what does that do to the equilibrium point? Okay, it's going to shift. All right, so if we look at this second graph right here, okay, where's my little, there we go. It's like it disappeared. Okay, so in this second graph, all right, here we have the quantity and here we have the price. So, hold one second, guys. I am being interrupted by one of my children. I'm teaching right now. I need you to go. Go talk to Daddy. Shut the door, please. All right, real life, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, so here is our new equilibrium point. So let's look right here. Quantity. So this is how many are available, and this is the price. Okay, so compare this. So basically this is before, and then we could say this is after. All right, what has our demand done? What has our supply done? Well, the demand has pretty much stayed consistent, but this is what's happened. This is our new supply. Our supply has shifted. So which direction has it shifted? Well, if we look at this difference between these two lines, it's moved this direction. So what has happened? Our quantity has decreased. Okay, now when our quantity decreased, what does it do to the price? Well, now we have a brand new equilibrium point right here. Okay, so this has also shifted upward. So what has happened to our price? Our price has increased. Okay, so hopefully you guys understand that. If it's something that this is still confusing to you, then this is something that we can obviously talk about during our synchronous time. Also, feel free to watch this section over again if I missed anything, or just for clarification for you guys. Okay, so that's how supply and demand works. Okay, now before I get to this picture down here, I want to introduce you guys to something called externalities. Okay, I'm gonna pick a different color. Let's go with this reddish color. Okay, so externalities. Let me spell it out for you guys. Externalities. Okay, so when we make decisions to purchase goods, there are specific costs that are not included in the price that we're paying. Okay, now let me give you an example. So when we're paying for our $1,200 iPhone, we're paying for obviously the technology that's gone into producing the cell phone. Also, we're paying for the metal that is inside of the cell phone that has been mined, most likely from specific countries in Africa. So we're paying for those shipping costs so that Apple can make a profit. Now, externalities are not those specific types of things. Externalities are things that are going to impact the environment that we are not paying for in the cost of purchasing something. So let's think about it this way. Okay, so an externality is a cost not included in the price. Okay, so here's the example that I like to use, and I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I'm an awful artist. This is why I teach science. I'm going to draw a hamburger. Okay, so here's our top bun. Let's put some lettuce here. Here we've got our beef patty. And then here is the bottom bun. Okay? Alright, so when we buy a hamburger from McDonald's, we are paying for the products that go into this. But we're not paying for, okay, let's look at the ingredients that are in this actual hamburger. So you've got lettuce right here, right? Now, lettuce is a produce item. And when farmers are growing produce like lettuce, they want to keep pests away, right? So, pesticides. Certain pesticides have been known to cause cancer in consumers. Our beef. Unless you buy organic, all beef is going to contain antibiotics because it prevents transmission of illness between cattle when they are confined in close areas, and it makes them fatter so that they are going to get more money. And then, you know, you've got all these fossil fuels that are used to harvest and transport these materials. So when fossil fuels are burned, it releases greenhouse gases into the environment, which lead to climate change. Okay, so those are what we call externalities. Okay, they're impacts to the environment that we're not necessarily paying for. Okay, so let's go down to, oh, too much, this picture right here. Okay, now when we're talking about all of this, we have to look at what's called the GDP. Okay, so the question is, how do we measure a country's wealth? So how do we measure a country's wealth? Okay, we use what's called the GDP. The GDP is the gross domestic product. This is something that politicians like to talk about a lot, especially during election years. So you'll probably hear our candidates talk about the gross domestic product a lot when we get to the debates. So the gross domestic product. Okay? Now, the gross domestic product is the goods and services produced in a year within a country. So the goods and services produced in a year. Okay, so you can see when we look at the United States over here, yeah, we're doing awesome. Okay, this is what politicians like to see. Okay, it means we're making a lot of money, and this is what we can brag about. But the problem is, this does not account for well-being. Just because the United States is rich and has a lot of money, does that mean all of us have that? Are we all rich? Do we all have a lot of money? And the answer is no. We know that things are not distributed in an equal manner in the United States. So the GDP does not measure well-being. Okay? Now, I am going to continue in part 2 of our discussion.